This video is going to be about setting up the MiniDSP. This is the 2x4 model, not the HD, it's just the regular one. And so these are some custom speakers that I made with two 6-inch aluminum woofers and then the classic, the Lineum dipolar tweeter. And these are replacing some old Infinities. I think these are the P173s. So here's the unit, and I went ahead and labeled it so that I would know what the connections are. Initially, I would say hook it up to your laptop for the audio so that there's no delay that your receiver might introduce. And then here's the outputs. And then there's the various connections. It's kind of hard to see. It's 4 channels are going out. And I did a custom speaker cables so that had 4 connectors or 4 conductors in the cable. And that way I just have one speaker cable that has to run the length. And this is this particular amplifier is a let's see if I'll get it. It's a Harman Kardon. It's a PA 5800. It's a fairly old 5-channel amp, and it's got a DC trigger, so it comes on when the receiver, which is it's a Denon 2808. It has a DC output to trigger on the amplifier. So here's the speaker cable, and then that way it plugs in for the tweeter and the woofer. Okay, so the setup here, we're to measure. This is the Dayton, the OmniMIC setup that they have. The suite is about $200. I think somewhere around there. That includes the microphone, USB microphone, and then the software here. It's pretty easy to use. I like it. You could save a lot of money going with the REW program, REW, and then some USB mic of your choice. The REW program's a little bit harder to get going because it does a lot more than just measure speaker response, but it is a lot cheaper. One thing to note about this is just be careful of background noises that you may not know about. You can either get rid of those background noises, or you can turn up the volume loud enough to just cover them up. So like, for example, if I go kind of look over here at, like around here, it's, okay, so that's what it looks like normally. But let me go turn on the ceiling fan over here, and you'll see what happens as the motor starts to spin up on the fan. You can't really hear it, but it's there. So you see that hump right there? I have the volume pretty low for the demonstration here, but what you could do is just turn up the volume on the speakers when you start testing to just cover that up. And for some reason I get a lot of feedback up here in the upper the very low end, and I can't figure out what's making that. So the best way I've found is to just change the the gating up here, set it to all, or only to, sorry, set it to only to, and then expand this way out to, I think 75 is the highest. Just go right kind of where you think your speakers might cut off, and so I'll shut up, and that should simmer down. Alright, well, there's some thunder going on outside, so that's not helping. Alright, so we got a noise floor of about 70-75 decibels. And you'll just have to stay ahead of that. Normally, decently loud is, when I'm doing these, is about 95 decibels. Like I said, I have them quiet right now, and I'll kind of show you what it does. So you can see about 85 decibels right there is where we'll be messing with for this. But let me go turn that fan off to get rid of that. Okay, so let's get started with the software here. Okay. So first thing, you're going to need to go and purchase the MiniDSP, the plugin. So once you create an account and somehow you'll buy the software. Anyways, once you eventually buy this, redeem a coupon, I think is what you'll want to do when you buy the thing. It comes with a free coupon. Eventually, once you get it, you'll go to user downloads here, and then you'll select whatever it is that you bought, and you'll say MiniDSP is what this one is, and all your things that you've bought will show up down here. So I purchased the two-way graphic equalizer plugin, because that one meets my needs the best. And then you'll download it. And their software is kind of not what I was expecting. There's not like a front-end software and then you just buy plugins to load at certain times. Every plugin is actually its own program. So once you install it, you'll have this right here is the MiniDSP X over two-way. It's its own separate program. And when you bring it up, this is what this particular one looks like. They all look different though. So this one, you've got this blockchain setup. You've got your basic, just your input, how strong it is, and then you go in and you adjust the signal, and then you use your crossover to break it out to 1 and 2. And then you make some final adjustments for 1 and 2. And then it's the same down here. So these ones are all independent, but here you can hit link channels. And now everything you do here will also change over here. Now, right now you can do, all this stuff is interactable, but it's not actually doing anything to the system. You wouldn't notice any changes. And probably the best way to do that is you would just go over here and you could say, you could slide one of these down and it would make no difference. What you got to do is you come up here and hit this synchronize button. The first time you do this, there will probably be a window that'll pop up. I think it was like Microsoft.net or something, it pops up and it says, do you want to install this? You need to say yes. Once you do that, start the program over again, and this is what it'll look like. You'll get this pop-up window up here that says it's communicating, and you say synchronize. And it reboots it, and so now everything is active here, and you actually start to see these numbers change. This is the the input signal. So for instance, if I shrunk this down and started playing, you should see these numbers change. So it's pretty quiet right now. We'll jack it up a little. So you okay, so you saw how it reacted there. So first I wouldn't mess with the EQ just yet. I would go to the crossover, and you have your various models that you can choose, and you'll see it kind of changes the nature of the curve. And so for this one, we're going to say at 2000. Now in this case, it was doing a 24 dB crossover to the tweeter at 1 kilohertz. And then I also have a capacitor in the tweeter, 6 dB. It's just a single capacitor at 2 kilohertz. It's a 10 microfarad one, I believe, or is that microfarad, millifarad, microfarad? Microfarad. Okay, and then so hit enter, and then we'll go set that one and this one. Okay, so now 24 decibels, Linquence-Riley at 2 kilohertz, right? I think they've said that you can choose stuff. Again, I think that's just completely specific to the module or the plugin that you buy. I'm sure it can do different things, but it's not. Okay, so here so for practice, right now we're going to monitor the left, so we're going to mute that, and we just want to mess with the left one right now. And let's get the let's get just the woofer. So 3 should be the woofer. Let's mute that. And so if we do this, okay, so you can see it's definitely having an effect. So now what we can do is we can go in, we can pull in this equalizer here.
let me rearrange this here. Since we're going to be working with the woofer stuff. And then also you want to make sure that the mic is actually facing it there. Okay, so this woofer is, you know, you can see it's pretty well behaved there. It looks like it jumps down a little bit at 100 hertz. I could change that, the smoothing, that might make it a little more obvious. And we'll just kind of make some changes here and try to get it as smooth as we can. Length of channels too. This will make it stay the same across both of them. So whatever change you do over here, it'll also affect it over here. Now I did tune the port to cut off at about 50 hertz, so that is doing exactly what I expected it to do. So I'm not going to push that any lower. That's the natural cutoff for it. Okay, so I think we'll accept that. That looks pretty decent. It's a, you know, plus or minus 2 or 3 dB from the center line. That's pretty acceptable. And I'm hitting F2 and escape to start the noise. Otherwise, you can go to play from sound card, and that restarts it. And then you can hit escape to stop it, and then F2 to start it. Okay, so now we've got the woofer, and then so if you go up to this one, you can see the changes are the same across both of them. This just helps you get in the ballpark, but you know, the beauty of this is that you can actually, once you get it set up, you can undo the link and you can go over to the other side and fine tune it, because maybe since it's in a different corner of the room or whatever, the acoustics are a little different, and so you can make it exactly what it needs to be. Okay, so we're going to mute the woofer, bring the tweeter back online, and go back over there, and then make sure we move that mic to in front of the tweeter. And we'll swap sides here. Okay, F2 to start it. So we got, you know, 2K, 1K, 2K, 3K, 4K. So we'll start with the 4K. And what I'm doing here, I'm just trying to get it, you know, kind of going back to where it was. You might say, oh, well, I'll try to make it even with this line right here. But, you know, you've got a pretty flat spectrum right here. And so I would try to bring everything else up to this, since that means you don't have to even mess with the majority of the frequencies here. So that's why I said with the 4K, we'll bump it up to what the other ones are just naturally at. So you can see here, this tweeter just doesn't, you know, what is this, you know, starting at 13 kilohertz, it's just not doing anything. You could sit here and jack up this, the parametric stuff at that frequency, but all you're really doing is you're going to run into headroom issues when you start turning the volume up. And really above, you know, at this frequency there's not a lot of content there. I guess if you're pure on music you could try it, but I don't think it's going to have that big of an effect. And if the tweeter doesn't want to do it, you know, or if the driver doesn't want to do something, don't push it too hard to do it. Okay, so we got this thing pretty flat here. Let's turn this off. So now we've got both drivers look good by themselves, and now we have to put them together and make sure that they work together okay. So for this, I'm gonna kind of pull the microphone kind of in the middle and maybe bring it back a little bit so that it's got a good chance of getting the sound from both drivers. So now we'll go back, and what we're going to do is unmute it, and now we should have a nice full range signal. And we'll start it up and see what happens. You know, our biggest concern when we do this is what's going to happen where the two drivers overlap at the 2 kilohertz signal. You'll have to worry about things like phase and all that stuff. And of course I put that capacitor on there, so that shifts the phase a little bit, I think 90 degrees, which, you know, everyone says that's not a big deal, but as you'll see, there will be some issues, and I don't know if they're totally the result of that capacitor, but you'll see what happens here. Okay, so right here at 2 kilohertz we have a dip. If you think it's a phase issue, this will actually allow you to invert them. And you can see that got a little worse. So you don't necessarily have to disassemble the speaker and connect the cables weird or anything like that. You can do it on the fly. Now this is a 180 degree inversion, but maybe 180 degrees isn't enough. So what you can do is you can go over here and you can try backing off. Sorry, that's the tweeter. Okay, so that's not making too much of a difference. We still got this gap. So go over here and just kind of change this guy. And so right there, 222, you can see it starts to shift back down again. And then I'll go down, and you'll see it'll kind of go, it'll raise and then it'll start going down again. You want to get it right where that number is, so where it doesn't move. Okay, so we'll go with about 0.16 milliseconds. And you can also try this guy. Okay. And let's... Okay, so that doesn't help too much. Okay, so you can see 2400 for the woofer and 2K. We might be even able to pick that up a little bit. So I know that sound is going to be annoying, but that's just the nature of doing this. I mean, you have to have that sound while you're making these adjustments. I would suggest turning the volume down. You could wear earplugs as well, because it gets to be fatiguing quite quickly. I mean, within a couple minutes, you'll start to feel it in your ears. Okay, I don't think that these numbers transfer. Yeah, they don't transfer over. Okay, and then you'll want to, just to get a baseline, cancel that same number. And then the other thing here, if we go back, the other thing we can do here is actually lower the volume of the woofer, and that might help as well. So let's transfer, put this guy over here. We're on output channel 1. We actually want to be back over here. Okay. So see, that brought it a little more in line. And I'm just going to adjust this a little bit. I wouldn't mess with the bass too much at this frequency, because of how far the microphone is. You're starting to get into reflections and stuff, so the bass looks all crazy down there, but when we had it up close, we saw that it was pretty in pretty good shape. So when you start moving the microphone back, I wouldn't go too crazy on the frequency adjustment. Do that more close up, just because there are limitations with room interaction and stuff. But I think overall that is fine. What you can do is then move the microphone, or the microphone over to the other speaker, and check it out. Actually, here's another thing that's great about this software. Something that I didn't do. I have the grill off right now, but I plan on always having the grill on. So let's actually put the grill on and adjust the speaker based on that. Alright, so let's see how different that is now. And let's actually move the mic a little bit closer, since we're going to be dealing with the bass stuff. Okay. Okay. So that still looks really good. Honestly, the grill is going to affect the tweeter more, and our tweeter kind of has a permanent grill on it, so we've already messed with that. So in this case, the grill is not that big of a difference, but you can see, you can validate that by actually measuring it instead of just guessing, and that's what's really nice about this whole setup. I wouldn't really recommend. In fact, I would recommend against getting the MiniDSP if you don't want to do the measuring stuff, because there's really no point. Yeah, it'll be a little better, I guess, just because it's an active crossover. There's some benefit to that, but you lose out on a lot of the advantages to using this if you can't actually measure the signal and make the changes as needed. So hopefully that was gives you an idea of how this thing works and what you can do with it. I think it's really awesome. What I have done is I have a battery backup for my stereo, mostly for the TV, because it does not like to be powered off during a power failure if it's on. And so I just put a little USB charger on there, and this USB cable that's connecting the computer to the unit right now, I'll just plug that in and it'll always be on, and if there's a thunderstorm or something, the MiniDSP will stay powered on. I had seen some discussion about static and stuff using the USB plug. If I put my ear right on the Lineum tweeter, I can hear some static, but my ear has to be right on it to hear it. So yeah, it's there, but more than a foot away, you're not going to hear it at all, and it might be hard to hear 6 to 8 inches away. That's about it. And then you just plug in your receiver and good to go.
All right, let me add one more thing here. So I'm measuring the speaker on the right side, and it's kind of in a wall over in a corner, whereas this one's more over in an open environment. And so I went ahead and measured that one too. And, initially, when we go over here to the other side, we see it had we had this delay at 0.016. And so I had set that over just, because figure, okay, I guess the other side's going to be the same way. Well, when I tried it out, I noticed a peculiarity. You can see that dip right there around 2 kilohertz. Well, that's the crossover frequency, so immediately that stuck out to me. So if I come over here and I start pulling that down, you see that line get a lot better. And so now that's like a perfectly flat line there. So again, let me shut this up. So again, that's just one of the really cool things about this MiniDSP is trying to figure out stuff like that with a passive crossover and doing crazy time alignment with the baffle and stuff. It would just be impossible, and it would cost a lot of money and a lot of trial and error. Whereas here, it's $85 to $100, and then of course, me, I had this 5-channel amp just sitting around. I was only using 1 channel of it anyway, so I had 4 extra channels. But even then, you could put something together with like a LM3886, or even a couple $100 for a traditional, maybe 2-channel amps or a 5-channel amp like this. But yeah, I'm really impressed with the MiniDSP. It does take a little bit of work to get it going, but I think that the benefits and the payback or the payout are much higher. This is a very good product, and I can fully use it on another project. If I move to another project, I can do all kinds of stuff with it. It's pretty versatile. I think really this thing, just unless it just flat out dies, I don't know if I'll have to buy something else again. So it's good. It's a good deal. I like it. Before you disconnect your laptop and commit everything, make sure that all of your mutes are good, turned off. So here I've still got a mute. Get everything back, and then go up here to System Settings, say Save, and just save it in case something goes wrong with it. There you go. You can always restore it back to defaults and load your config if you need to move it across projects or whatever.